Well, hi. How's it going? Right on, right on. Well, welcome to the neighborhood bike shop. As always, I'm grateful for you checking it out and maybe taking a look. Before I get started, I want to say a very special thanks to Nelson Riches, who made a donation to my medical fund. Thank you, dude. Huge help, especially right now. Um, I work kind of seasonally at a bike shop, and right now everything's so slow that there's just no work for me. So the only work that I have is out of my neighborhood bike shop at home, and I'm not generating a huge amount of income right now. And I just had two more teeth removed. But Nelson, your donation, it was huge. Thank you, dude. And anybody else that can make donations to my medical fund, I really appreciate it. There's a big, huge story behind it about all the different things that I'm dealing with, from double pulmonary embolisms to like the blood clotting stuff and the whole lupus thing. They believe I have lupus, but until we document it with actual photographs or video of the actual things that happen, the symptoms that happen, there's no way that they can give it a clinical name yet. So we're still in the process about that. But again, Nelson, thank you, dude. You rule. And back to the bike shop. So I've been working on Arlo's bike for a while, and we started out with the Trek 8700 that had some problems with it. And the frame needed to be replaced. But when I replace the frame, that means replacing a bunch of other things. Different seat post collar. There's just several things that have to be changed. But on today's episode, we're going to take and build up this frame, and this bike is going to be awesome. It's going to look wonderful. So I'm going to jump straight into that, and then I'll pick up with some of the other messages at the end of the show. So I hope you enjoy it, and leave a comment, subscribe, maybe even like the video. That'd be super awesome. Anyhow, if you want to see me keep doing this, let me know. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want me to address a specific part of the bike and really go into a deep dive on it, just let me know. Anyhow, here we go. Let's put this bike together. All right, so the very first thing that I want to do on this is I want to get the seat post in here, and then I want to hold the entire frame assembly by the seat post. There's a couple different reasons that I do that. One of them is because I don't want to grab onto the tube and possibly deform it or change it, even though there's no way that's going to happen. I like to grab onto the seat post. It just makes me feel that much more secure when I'm working on the bike. So I found a seat post in my collection, and it'll work great. And I also found a temporary seat collar. I do not like this seat collar. I don't want this bike to be finished with this one, but if it is, it's not the end of the world. It'll hold the seat up. So get it on there. A little bit of grease. This is one of the steps I think a lot of people ignore, is just putting just a dab of grease in the right places. And that really benefits us in a lot of ways. There's a bunch of different benefits from it. And one of them is that when you go to take the bike back apart, it comes apart much easier. The other one is it slows down corrosion. It keeps corrosion from really getting in there, or it helps keep it from getting in there. And it just makes it easier to adjust. So that's why. And I don't like twisting like that, because that's how you get the zigzag on your seat post, especially if they're way too tight and if there's a piece of metal hanging off. There's another pro tip. Anytime you have a seat post completely out, feel the lip around the seat tube and see if there's any little burrs or pieces of metal sticking off. If there are, just take and get rid of them with like a deburr, or a file is probably more common for what people have. That's what I did on this one before then, so I knew that it wasn't going to scratch it if I twisted a little bit. But I don't like twisting. Yeah, straight up and down motion on the whole seat post thing after it's been deburred, no scratches. Sweet, on to the next. All right, so originally there was a Ritchie seat post on here, which is a very, very nice seat post. Of course, I'm going to be giving this back to the client, Arlo, so that he can do with it what he wants, or he can donate it to the bicycle horde, however he feels fit. But yeah, this one is a different size than this seat tube, so I had to go with a different seat post, but I am putting the original seat on. So I'm going to put the seat on. Next time you see it, it'll be on. All right, now that I've got situated in the seat rail clamp, we'll get her tightened up. So why don't I show me putting it into the seat clamp, or the seat rail clamp? Because it's goofy. Sometimes it takes a little while. It's not like very entertaining to watch. It's just me messing around with it until it finally works. And I would rather just get it really, really close and then show you guys the end results. Now, if that's an issue, let me know, and I'll show you all the little teeny boring parts that are tedious. But yeah, for the most part, I'm going to try to keep the boring stuff away from you guys. When I set up the seat, when the bike's in the stand, I make it parallel to the top tube. That's just my general rule. It's a starting point. And I believe that we are good enough with that. Now I'm going to move it down to here. The clamp, my bike rack is going to move up to here, and we'll move on and start putting on other fun stuff. All right, so now I'm going to put the cranks on. We already installed the bottom bracket on a previous edition, so let's just get them on there. It's pretty straightforward. So recently, I had the opportunity to tell my story at kind of like a seminar thing in my friend's event recently. Mark Westside Johnson, thank you, dude. Love you, man. And I was able to show people what I do. And there was a huge response to it. People were really cool about it. And they responded really well. But I took this tool just because I think it's cool, and I showed it to them for like no reason. I was like, I just want to show you this one. They're like, why? I was like, because I think it's cool. They're like, what is it? I'm like, it's a 14-15 closed-end ratcheting wrench from Park Tool that they discontinued. Anyhow, it's one of my favorite tools. As if you watch this channel, you know that. Now, I do want to get this quite tight. Usually the torque is about 42, but where I do not have a crow's foot, I can't measure that on this one. And yes, a crow's foot is on the menu. That is going to be coming soon. But until then, I'm going to use muscle memory and the things I've learned over the years. Okay, cranks are on, rock and roll. All right, the fun part. Now we're going to start putting controls on everything and start really putting this thing back together. It should go together really quite quickly, and it shouldn't take too long either. It should work out fairly quick. I need to make sure that I put these on the way that I want them. I am thinking that I'm going to go this, then this. Okay. Yeah, dude. That'll work, and that'll be much better. So the arrangement that these come in sometimes, and when I say these, I'm saying words that you guys aren't even understanding. Occasionally, the brake lever and the shift pod need to be in different locations to have clearance to work. Most of the time, the shift mechanism will go on before the brake caliper or the brake lever. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes you get surprised and you have to switch them around, but that is the case on this bike. Sweet. Very sweet. Now we got some rad grips. These grips are going to go on, and I think they're going to look sweet. But one of the things I have to do, because he wants bar ends, or there were bar ends on this bike when it started, there's going to be bar ends on it when it ends. And so instead of having a closed off end, I'm going to take a razor blade and just cut along here and make these not have end caps on them. So one moment. So I wasn't going to show you what I was doing on this, but I decided I might as well. The most important part about doing something like what I'm about to do is that you have a very sharp blade in. And I can already tell by looking at this blade that I've put it through a lot of work already. So I'm going to switch out the blade real quick. All right, I got a special guest. My mom stopped by to come say hello and bring me some soup to help me deal with my teeth because I can't eat regular food. Anyhow, this is my mom. She's awesome, and I love her.
Hi, whoever.
I'm filming for the neighborhood bike shop. So,
There we
neighborhood
go.
bike shop, this is my mom. Okay, love you guys. Right, after that awesome visit from my mom, I am going to cut the back ends off these grips so that they'll work good on this build. The first thing that I did was I changed out the crappy old blade because you want a brand new sharp blade. You do not want to do this with anything other than a very, very sharp blade. And be careful. So I start right in the seam and I get a poke. Like I get broken through the main surface so that I can basically slice it like bread as I go around the outside edge. And at the very end, it gets a little weird, but that's okay. This does not have to be completely perfect to work out good. So you can see there's a little bit of an edge there, but this edge is going to be straight enough that it's going to work just fine. Again, just getting the tip through there. And slicing. Very nice. And if you have any odd bits on the ends, you can always go back and retrim them. But usually it turns out good enough the first time that once you put it together, it'll look fine. Okay, on to the next bit. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start measuring out cable lengths. But before that, I'm going to slip the grips on and the bar ends that I intend to use just so I can get the shift pods and the brake levers in the right location before I start measuring for housings. But here we go. All right, I'm putting some grips on. I take some alcohol, some denatured alcohol, spray it on the bar, spray it in the grip, slide the grip on to about where I want it. Make sure that my lettering is facing the way that I want the lettering, because I'm weird that way. I need to make sure that things line up. And on we go. these things will stay slippery for a while, as in the grips will be movable for, I don't know, like literally the better part of a day. As in, it won't be until the next day that they are completely set in place. Oh, I might put this one on the opposite way. Sorry. Boom. See how nice that is? If I'd put them on with the air compressor, that would have been a bunch of drama. And now for spacing, I'm going to get these bar ends stabbed into place. And again, initially, when I set up bar ends, I'm going to set them up parallel to the top tube of the bike. Is that where they're going to stay? Probably not. But it does give you a good starting spot. Consistent. And lining up one bar end with the other. Sweet. Then I kind of pull the grip into the bar end. I pull it this way so that it gives it a nice tight fit against the bar end. Then I also move the brakes and the componentry down so that I can do an initial tighten on them as well. And for that initial tighten, I am kind of honestly just guessing at it. I'm getting it like I visualize about where I think it'll go. And then that's where I lock it in for the time being. And there's a decent chance that it'll be in the right spot. So there's that. Just lining up by looking down the side of the bike. And now we're ready to put in housing. Woo! All right, on to the next part, which is the cable housings. I did a couple things while you guys weren't watching about measuring these cable housings, so I wouldn't have to do all the tedious stuff that comes with making sure that cable housings are the right length. So I'm going to go through just putting the cable housings on and then kind of describe how I ended up there anyhow. So I'm going to start with the shift cable on the drive side, or should I say the rear derailleur shift cable. And I've already pre-lubed all of these and put tri-flow through them so they're all nice and slippery. I pre-fitted all of these housings before I'm bringing them on camera because I want them to go on quick, easy, and with as little complication as possible, and to make it as rapid as possible when it comes to this aspect of the build. So back in the day, I purchased a lot of cable fairings. And when I say cable fairings, what I mean is cable fairings like this. Like those are brake cable fairings of 5 millimeters. These are shift cable fairings, but these are kind of special. They're 5, step down to 4 millimeter. Those are my favorite ones because they make any cable work, but they also work with a lot of tight shifting things. Anyhow, so I have the rear derailleur shift cable housing in place on the front. Now, because where I'm hooking these cables in on this top tube are the exact same length, several of these cables can be the exact same length. So once I figured out one, the other one was right behind it as far as knowing how long it needed to be. I also tried to use a lot of these cables again, like the original cables from the bike, but I couldn't because they just flat out were not long enough. And that's kind of to be expected in a lot of ways with a lot of these bikes. All right. Now just imagine with all the modern new bikes running all of these cable housings interior, like running them on the interior of the stem and the frame. Oh my gosh. And I've worked on those bikes before, but they are not a pleasure to work with. They look beautiful. They really do look beautiful and clean, and I love the look of them. But to work on them as a mechanic is a nightmare. If you want to change the stack height, you have to change the cable housing for everything. And it's not just cable housing anymore, it's hydraulic housing because all of the road bikes have hydraulic brakes now. And you want to change your reach, the height of your bars, any of that stuff, you have to basically do $100 changeover to get something that you could have done before with externally routed cable housing for nothing. Anyhow, enough hoopla along those lines. Okay, a little brake housing. Ow! My gosh, I just stepped on something sharp. The F was that? Oh, ow! Man, I just stepped on something on the floor that went like a half an inch into my foot. Holy shiz. That's no good, bro. Okay, now I'm doing the rear brake. And of course, when I test fitted all this stuff, I perfected the routing that I was going to use on this bike. And what I mean by routing is exactly which cables were going to go around and in front of and past which cables and how, because these are all being run down the top tube of this bike. So I put the shift cables on the exterior, on the outside and the outside. It's got a triple run down the top tube. And then the rear brake down the center, because that just kind of made sense to me. I mean, just kind of seemed like the right way to do it. It made sense with the rest of the shifting stuff. All right. And we're going to go to the front brake cable. Now, one of these days, I'll go through and I'll show you guys exactly how I measure and how I go through and do each one of my cable housing lengths and how I get them to the lengths that I want, because it's not instant. I don't just slap them on there and boom, it's done. I have to put them on, take them off, 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 over and over again until they're the right look for me. Okay, right now, got my shift housings looking nice and tight on the front. And I got my front brake housings. The front one's going to have a lot more flexibility, so I'm just going to stash it off to the side the way it is. And then on the rear shift housing, like I said, I pre-measured this shift cable and cut it so I wouldn't have to waste your time with me doing that on here. Nice. Clean. This is for the rear. We'll get back to it. This is for the front shift housing, which is right here. And this one I am trying to use the original cable housing off of. Why? Because cable housings are expensive, or cables are expensive. They're anywhere from $5 to $10 a piece when you're putting them on. And so if you can reuse a cable, you're way ahead of the game. But because of the change in lengths in things, that's not always possible. So we're going to do our best to try to make this work with a much shorter cable housing. Oh yeah, boy. Yeah. Time out. Nice. Time back in. I found a better routing solution and applied it. And I could shorten the cable housing just a little bit, which is what we're looking for on this guy. Cleaner routing. I might even be able to go shorter. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like when you're doing this, sometimes just getting the cable lengths and housing lengths the right length can take a while. Because right now it's close, but this cable actually can get another ½ inch shorter. That means that I've taken almost an inch off of this cable housing since I started trying to feed it through back here. And you can start to get an idea of like what I'm talking about with the whole it's give and take, and it takes a little bit, but it's always worth it. Like if you do it right and it turns out just awesome. Oh yeah. Yeah, dude. That looks good. And I think we might be long enough to be able to get that cable to the derailleur. Awesome. So now on to the next part. All right, let's install the front derailleur. And because I've already test installed this derailleur once, I know that it fits and I know about where it goes. Well, that's as low as it goes because the bottle cage bolt won't let it go any lower. So right now I am lining up the cable or the derailleur housing cage with the cogs. and we'll get it snugged up into it's an about that close kind of distance. And gonna have to put a new cable in. Dang it. Time out. All right, so I replaced the cable housing that was on for the front derailleur with a new cable. Let me rephrase that. The cable was too short for the cable housing that I had set up. I was hoping it would be long enough that I would be able to reuse the old one. I was not able to. I replaced it with a brand new cable. So now this bike is completely going on brand new cables, so I don't have to worry about the lengths anymore. Except for the front brake. I think I'm going to use an old one for the front brake. Anyhow, so right now, the next thing I need to do is check the derailleur alignment to see how this is as far as when I put a derailleur on here. Is it gonna sit in there just right, or is it gonna be a problem? Okay. Front tire in, good to go. DAG, derailleur alignment guide. Now I already checked this wheel, and this wheel is straight. It's true, it's good to go, it's in the right place. And I am going to do one of the methods that I was taught by one of my friends, where you measure at the exact same location everywhere. So I measured at the stem, down at the bottom, or at the top, and now I'm at the bottom, and I can see I am off by about 1/4 of an inch. Down here, I can see that I'm off by about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to check the other locations, the horizontal location, and that's about 3/16, a little more than an eighth. And then at its opposite, which is flat even. Oh, but I said I was going to do it with the valve. So I put the valve right here. It's that same 1/4 inch type distance. And spin it around to the other side. And it's right on the noodle right there. So up top we're right on, right back we're right on. Find the stem, measure to it, and we're off. So if we're right on, that means that this is, so this and this need to come out. And out. And I'm trying to do this very gently. I'm pulling on it a couple times, trying to coax it into where it needs to go, not force anything where it needs to go. So I'm realigning my rubber measuring guide point. And good. And good. And good. Okay, so just a small adjustment like that. Make sure that the rear derailleur hanger is aligned the way it should be. And just like that, I can grab the rear derailleur and hook it on and feel confident that it is aligned the way it needs to be. Oh yeah, and there was a little bit of grease on there before. My DAG always has a puddle of grease on the end of it. So when I put it on, it instantly greases that option so that I don't have to deal with it later. Okay. Nice. Okay. On to rerouting some more cable, and then nice. Nice. We're pretty good on our set screws already, which I kind of expected. It was already set up for this wheel, so we should be good. And now we're on to slapping the front wheel on, slapping the brakes on, and putting the rest of the stuff together. So let's do this.